the guy in many, many years.
Look, I'm not talking about the person. I'm saying when you only see someone in spurts, you can only comment on the kind of person that you see.
Right,
correct?
but that's what I was going to say is I haven't talked to him in many years, but that's the same shit he was doing when we used to hang out, you know?
He's one of those guys that believes, like you said, he still believes he has one more run.
My last conversation with him, he told me that that he just his goal was to just get on TV before he wrapped it up, because I said, Steve, you got to be looking at the end of this thing, right? And I mean,
what's the end game?
And his end game was like TV.
Yeah,
and I'm like, dude, that was the beginning game.
Yeah, how?
You know?
How?
No, that's what
I mean. How?
He's always when he broke me into the business, he told me that the way it happens is they know you. They know, meaning WWE, whatever. They know you.
They just know you.
Yeah, they see it. They watch our stuff. They steal our moves. They watch our stuff.
They've been saying that forever.
Wow.
Right. Now, me being,
crazy.
drinking the Kool-Aid, I believe that. But anyway, so wait, let's go back.
You had a setup at the time, though. They were drawing mad people. They
Yeah.
had a lot of publications on them.
Right.
They were a real wrestling company. I mean, arguably at the time, Steve Boz got this head because he was really part of something that was actually a good thing. That's where it's kind of, you forget that because wrestling sucks right now.
So let's go into that after this. Let's go back to the
night. Night.
Because we'll set it all up here. So we get our matches. Vic and I work our stuff out with Kai and Ty. We're all out there, and we were kind of like sitting up in the seats, just kind of chilling for a minute. And we see Eddie Guerrero in the ring. This is Vic Capri and I, and he's like, "Oh, look at Eddie. He's working on the Nagata lock." And I said, "Oh," he goes, "Oh, maybe he's going to use that like as a new submission or something." And I said, "Oh yeah, nothing more than that." Whatever. I see, in the back, they have the monitor there. I kind of see Steve in the ring, and I didn't know anything had happened. And then Steve comes up to me and he's like, "Yeah, I was in the ring with Eddie Guerrero." And I was like, "Oh yeah." It's like, "Yeah, I was." He was trying to do like figure four, and he had it backwards, which basically a Nagata lock is,
No, it's not. It's a Nagata lock.
Right. And he's kind of had trouble putting it on. He's like, so I, kind of helped him out with that. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, what did he do? Well, the reason why Steve thought this was okay, because Eddie Guerrero was such a cool guy that he actually stood up after it was over, let Steve show him how to do a figure four, stood up, shook his hand and said, "Thanks, brother." And
everyone was laughing at him.
Right. So I was just like, "Did you really do that?" I go, "Steve, what?" I was like,
and he's bragging to you.
Yeah,
I got over.
Yeah, he's like, I showed him how to do a figure four.
He didn't even know. He didn't even know.
Just was oblivious to all this. And I remember Vic and I were just like, what? Like, we just kind of just looked at each other. No big deal, right? Get changed into our gear. And now, because you were right, they were all like the what were they called, the Revolution or whatever, all those guys, like the Benoit and all those guys, they were all out there. So now they start making their way towards the back, because doors are starting to open and stuff. And I'm sitting on, one of those production crates right out in front of the locker room where all the guys, we're all in there back then. So I'm just sitting there, just nervous, thinking about my match, and all of a sudden Perry Saturn comes walking by and he goes, "Hey, Dean Malenko." Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know where the fuck they find these guys. Some guys out there showing Eddie how to do a fucking figure four. Can you believe this? And then, they were working each other. Boz was working Saturn. Well, Saturn up to this point hasn't really even talked to him about the match. Of course,
he's not gonna. You're gonna
right.
Just
it's just like, yeah, whatever. I'll talk to you 2 minutes before we go out there.
It's 3 kicks in my finish.
Right.
So Rings of Saturn. That's the finish.
And I remember just Vic and I like, oh fuck, what do we do? Do we tell him like, hey man, he's gonna fuck you up, Because look, remember what he did with that, whatever his name was?
That dude he threw out on his fucking head.
That guy's dead, by the way.
Yeah, he is dead. Yeah, and his brother did a movie about him.
Yeah, that bigger, stronger,
stronger, faster. Yeah,
great movie, great documentary.
And I don't know because it had happened already, so we just sat there watching this match like, when is it going to happen,
So you're watching him wrestle Saturn, right?
Yeah, right. Like, when is it going to happen? Because he's going to kill him.
So you don't tell Steve?
Well, we kind of like warned him. Like, I remember saying that. And you know what? It mainly was after the show. Like, because Vic and I were like, you know what? We should tell him something. Like, we got to say something.
You're a fucking idiot.
And we were like, tried to be as cool as possible about it, and he wasn't having it. He was just like, brother, I'm telling you, I was there. He was cool. He was cool. And I'm like,
did he beat his ass?
Who?
Did Saturn fuck him up?
No, no. It was all fine. But literally sitting there watching this match on the monitor in the back, I'm like, he's gonna get killed, and then they're gonna throw our bags out the door and tell us, don't ever come back here, and my dreams are crushed. And I'm like, so it was just at the end of it all. It's funny because what happens is wrestling for MCW. We were at CLC, College of
Lake County.
Yeah, in Grays Lake. And I go to the bathroom, and a fan is in there. And I recognize him, like, from seeing him, like, hanging around the Rosemont Horizon and stuff like that. So when I'm in the bathroom, like, after a match and stuff, I just try to lay low, I don't want to be like, yeah, I just had a match, like I'm in there in my tights and stuff. No,
with your Sharpie.
Right, yeah, right. So I'm just in there, taking a piss like a regular guy, and I'm in, like, my regular clothes, just whatever. If somebody wants to talk to me, whatever. So this guy says to me, we're both washing our hands together. And he says to me, he goes, boy, that's too bad. And I go, huh? And he's like, that's too bad. I said, you're talking to me, right? And he's like, yeah. I said, what's too bad? He said, about Steve. I said, what? He goes, he fucked himself. He fucked it all up for himself. I was like, what are you talking about? And he says, I know Michael Hayes. And I said, really? And he told me that Eddie Guerrero story. I was like, what? I was like,
oh, shit.
Yes.
So, like, it went around their locker room, too.
Then the icing on the cake, okay?
He was being used at that time, though.
No.
But wasn't he he had like a Shotgun Saturday Nights? He was wrestling.
He had a couple Shotgun Saturday Nights. I don't know that they ever.
And Saturday mornings.
I remember seeing him too. That when I got in the business, I was
so this was like at the tail end of that. So remember they had him cut his hair. They wanted him to cut his hair and that whole jazz. That was a rib. Right?
That was a rib. Yeah, and I'll tell you all that too. So what happens is the fact that this got so like wildfire, like you said, so far out there, and I was like, holy cow, this, I was like, yeah, that's really too bad. And I'm walking out of there, going back to the locker room. Holy shit! I'm like, what? This is crazy.
Yeah. So it's reached the fans. That's crazy.
Now more time passes, right? I'm, I've got a good establishment with WWEF at the time with Kevin Kelly. He knows who I am. He's calling me, booking me.
Did he ever have any inappropriate conversations with you?
No. Oh, okay. Why, is he known for that or what?
He's pretty known for that.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually, I had dinner with him, his wife, and his kid.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, I mean, and Mick Foley, that's another story. But anyway, I'm in ECWA. This is after the Super 8 because they kept booking me to go out there. So I'm in there, and we're in the locker room. It's me, Scoot Andrews, American Dragon, Kevin Kelly, and we're just like sitting in a circle of chairs, right? Just like sitting there, and all of a sudden, there's like a quiet moment, and Kevin Kelly looks at me and he goes, yeah, so your friend Steve Boz, that's pretty fucked up. And I was like, what? and I look at him and he goes, who the fuck tries to teach Eddie Guerrero a figure four?
How many years later?
This is probably like at least I don't know, maybe a year later.
This is great.
But the fact that it had gotten to the office, you know what I mean? So you know what? Who knows? Maybe we're sitting here and maybe Vince McMahon fucking knows that story. Like, oh yeah, I remember that fucking guy that was here.
That guy looked like Shawn Michaels that we made fun of because they picked on Shawn. Like, look at that guy that looks like you. Like, look at that guy's ripping you off.
And so that's the Eddie Guerrero story. The gimmick about the hair was here at the Rosemont Horizon. We're sitting in catering.
Is it around this time or after?
It is. I'm trying to think who was there with us because then that gives me a better idea of who was there. This was like after. This was after the top 50 came out because for some reason that paper was there in the locker room.
Oh, no shit, the Northwest Herald top 50
with
thing.
Me and Vic on there, and we're like, fuck, we look like marks with this thing in here.
What?
Yeah, it was in the catering. It was on.
No shit.
Yeah, because, the papers are there and stuff, and it was there. And so
no shit.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I was like, well, put this by Vince McMahon.
Open it up.
Yeah.
Just leave it open on Vince McMahon.
So we're there, and we're all sitting around the table, all of us indie guys, and Boz had like left, and Kevin comes back, and I go, Kevin, well, can you tell Steve that he has to cut his hair? And he's like, really? Why? Will that like fuck him up? I said, yes. He's like, yeah, that mullet thing is terrible. So
terrible. So he got a cut there, huh?
No. They didn't. No, what they did is Kevin left, so he comes back, and we're sitting there and we're eating, right? So hey, everybody, he comes in, he's shaking our hand. Hey, everything. So Boz, that hair, it's going today. He's like, it's got to go. He's like, come on, that's the gimmick, brother. Come on,
Really?
And he's like, no, not if you want to be on our show. He's like, you got to cut it. And he's like, go see what's her name, whoever their stylist was. Sure. She'll cut it for you right now. She'll do it right now. And then it was just like, and then they let him in on the joke. But his face was like so red. It was just, and this isn't like, and I'm like not being mean, but this is just
you set yourself up for it when you have a moment.
It's hilarious. Yeah. At one point, I felt really bad because at the table across from us, it's Jericho, Triple H, and like somebody else, and like they were cracking on him.
Of course,
because he had on the the worker boots with the jeans rolled up, tucked in, and the mullet, and and he couldn't walk around with like his arms at his side, like it had to be like a puffy muscle guy, and I was just like, oh, poor guy. Like I felt bad because
you would distance yourself from him if you're back there with him. You didn't want to be around him.
But there was one person that that I could not that seemed to like follow everywhere. And at that same night, same event in catering, Kevin Kelly comes back there, and at this point, I'm like the guy that's in touch with Kevin Kelly.
Okay.
So I think I had like more of a relationship with him, just in terms of like, hey, how's it going? Mm-hmm. Not like we were buddies or anything, but just he knew who I was.
You were the connection.
Yeah, and it was mainly me and Vic. That's like who if it was going to happen for anybody, it was going to happen for one of us at that time.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And Ken Anderson, because he was bringing him in a lot too.
Right.
So. Sitting in catering, and I think it was exactly just that. It was probably Chad Collier was there too, I think. But there were a bunch of us there. I think it was a pay-per-view. And same event, the haircutting thing, all had happened. Kevin Kelly comes in the catering, and he goes, Jason Rain, come over here. And I was like, what? Come here, I want to talk to you. So anytime, that's like, oh, man, they got to,
right.
Like, so anytime, you just jump for these things, right? And he goes, come here, I want to show you this. And he takes out like a manila envelope. And I'm like, oh, there's the contract.
And he's ribbing you right now, right?
Yes. But
going to all this trouble.
Yeah. So, because of course, every indie guy that's there is like, I want to fucking get a contract.
Of course.
That's what you're there for. I'm going to make $500 a week.
Anything, right.
So, he pulls out this manila envelope and pulls out the back of it is like white. So I'm like, oh, it's paper. What is this? He turns it around. It is an 8x10 of Johnny Kiss. I am not kidding you.
No way.
Yes. He goes, do you know this guy? And I go, yes.
At least he sent the stuff, and I'll say,
with like a tape in there, cassette tape and stuff in there. And I was like, oh my God. He's like, this kid's crazy. He's like, do you want this? And I go, no. He goes, because I don't want it either. But it was just
poor Johnny Kiss.
It was just like, what is this surreal world that I'm in? And I swear, like it's these things happen, and it's just like I store them in my memory because they're hilarious, and it's they're these weird sort of.
You know what? If someone pulled me up to the side and showed me a Johnny Kiss 8x10, I would remember it forever too. I think.
I mean, just these stories, just like it's almost like an episode. It's like a wrestling episode of Seinfeld. The way they come around, and it's. I mean, I've seen Trevor Blanchard get thrown out of backstage, and him going, no, Chris Jericho knows me. No, I'm with Chris. Jason, tell him I'm with you. You ain't with me.
You ain't with me, man.
Yeah.
It's such a weird culture backstage at those things.
Do you have any funny Trevor Blanchard stories? We only like funny ones.
I think that was the one where it was like. I
guess it doesn't really get any worse than that.
No. That you know what? It's tied to that one because back then you could pretty much just walk in backstage. And if somebody had a hint of who you were okay. You didn't have to really wear the backstage passes. You could just show up with your bag and just kind of like see if anything happens. And that's exactly what Boz used to do. Like he used to just go and just hang out backstage and wait to see if he could get on. So it wasn't necessarily that they were calling him.
Was his name at the door at least, or how did he get past security?
You just back
then security was lax.
Back then security was bullshit. You drive up through the back there
and they just assumed
and you just
go,
who you're with. I'm an extra. Okay. Right over there. Yeah.
No shit.
And then they started, getting your names, and you'd have to check in and all that stuff. But same thing in catering. And I think we were talking about we were telling like a Trevor Blanchard story, like amongst the table or whatever. And lo and behold, he comes walking in through catering.
She's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, we're sitting at the table with
Who's all there?
Chris Benoit is at the head of the table eating. And there's like maybe 6 of us, like Vic Capri, Steve Boz, Chad Collier, me, just all.
Did he happen to Benoit pull you aside and tell you he might kill his wife and kid?
No hint of that.
I had to ask.
No, I